Welcome to episode 2 of The Draft Doctor with your host, The Draft Brewery here. We are going to review a draft from February this year of the 360 Arena Pauper Cube created by Mal, and it's a draft by Mal. I was sitting directly across from him, so 4 seats away. It was a draft where I think it was probably my best deck I've ever drafted in his cube. I think it was a 3-0-6-0 Orzhov bounce deck, and it was the first time we were trying to really include that archetype as hyper supported, and so I sort of forced it, and it was very strong. But in our games, it was interesting because I thought he had a good deck, but it might have been missing some key pieces. So we did the draft review to see if there are any other options, and I think there were. So this might follow a similar theme as episode 1. And we'll kind of do some lessons on drafting as we go through pick by pick here. Okay, so looking at pack 1, pick 1, the only reasonable option here is probably Mana Leak. I think Pauper Cube is interesting because it really is about preferences. If you think like Mono White or Mono Red or Green Black Self-Mill Graveyard is just a very good archetype or deck, then you can just take a card for that from the get-go, especially if you think it's an underdrafted archetype or if you have good off-ramps for it. But in general, like, the card power level is so flat, there's very few cards that pull you in to one archetype, right? There's a few, I'd say, in blue, right? Murmuring Mystic and Mole Drifter and Mana Leak, Memory Lapse, Counterspell, like all these cheap interactive spells, Brainstorm, Ponder, Preordain, stuff like that. White has Battle Screech. This green doesn't really have a lot. And black, if you really like black, there's things that like a Gray Merchant or a Pact Altair or a Refurbished Familiar that you can kind of dive deep on early. But here, there's no real like archetype defining cards. We're hoping to wield Tolarian Terror. Yeah, I'm in agreement with our guy Mal. Okay, so let's look at pick 2. Okay, pick 2, interesting. So we got to remember, we got Mana Leak in the pile. Breath Weapon second. It's basically because it's very rare in the cube to have this type of Pyroclasm effect, and there aren't really any dragons, so it's pretty solid. Do I take it second pick here with Mana Leak? It's defensible because of the strong effect and basically how rare it is of an effect in the cube, but the more like just always will be good option is Ardent Elementalist. I really like the spells combo decks where you just have a bunch of cheap removal, but there's like 5 of these in the cube and there's only like 3 of these. So I think Breath Weapon is fine, hoping to wheel something like an Ardent Elementalist. We have Tolarian Terror and Cryptic Serpent now. I could also see Doomblade being reasonable, except I've been in enough situations where like non-black creatures is kind of a problem. So sometimes if they're just playing black, it just misses too much. So that's not what you want out of your removal spell. So, okay, Breath Weapon is pretty solid. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, pick 3. I totally agree. Serum Visionary is tons of value. Very good. We're looking like a blue-red control shell. Rally is pretty good if you're in the, is it aggro space? Token aggro space. Pulse of Marasa is really nice if you're trying to grind. If you took the Ardent Elementalist, I'd be probably snatching this Pulse of Marasa and looking to go some sort of 3+ color brew. Taking Pulse, maybe wheeling this Wooded Ridgeline, but Serum Visionary with what we have, it's pretty solid. So I can agree with that. Looks good to me. Okay, let's go to pick 4. Okay, options here. I only really like Oliphant or the Flow, and because yeah, we're not looking to be more than 2 colors right now. Oliphant's not that great for these 1 mana, 6 mana creature cyclers. So we flow. Seems good. Okay, pack 1, pick 5. Undersimplify is not powerful. This is an example of a card that scales poorly as the game goes on. It can counter anything. It's basically Quench, but if it hit a creature, it gets smaller in power, which is only relevant some of the time. So you're basically playing Quench. You already have Mana Leak. I just don't like drawing a lot of these cards into the late game. Whereas again, if I have Ardent Elementalist, I might take this, unseal the Necropolis, and be set up to go into my grindy shell, maybe looking to wheel this black-red land. But we're kind of locked in. Maybe we're locked in a little too early on just sticking with the color that we opened in our pack 1. Again, when we were playing a retail set draft and it's a bomb rare, mythic rare, it makes sense. But when it's just a replaceable card, we limit power a little bit too much by staying too narrow with our colors here. So yeah, I think Unseal is way more powerful, but we stick to blue-red. See where we go with that. Looks like the options would have been Seething Landscape to really have like powered cube philosophy of taking lands often and early so that you just have a really good mana base with 45 picks and 23 cards in the main deck on average, plus or minus some. Like the more lands you have, just the more consistent your deck can be and the more powerful things you can do. So if you go 2 color and you drafted 45 uncolored cards, half of your cards are just going to be in your sideboard anyways. So the more lands, the better. So I would have likened this landscape. If we're full Grixis, the hideout's fine, but that might come around. Repulse is interesting. This is a card that I suggested for the cube back in the day that I think got included because I have fond memories of it from my own ancient pauper cube. The issue I have with it is so many creatures in this cube have good ETB effects or cost 1 or 2 mana, and so the creatures that are giant tokens or cost 3 or more mana are just few and far between. And Repulse is pretty good when you can target your own Archaeomancer and stuff as kind of like a cheap little infinite blocker potentially, but that's not that powerful. So the landscape is very good. I'm also eyeing up Night's Whisper for our little Grixis deck. This card could be very good as well. All right. Well, we got the Repulse. We're sticking to our Izzet guns. Lembas. I actually like an Izzet a lot because Izzet doesn't have a lot of life gain, if any, in blue or red. So having access to some is nice. Another black-red land if we took the Unseal for a little Grixis-y stuff. Thriving Grove is also nice just to leave us fully open to things, but we're pretty happy to see Lembas in our Izzet shell here. Pack 1, pick 8. Green is... whoa. Another Grixis land. Green is intense here. The Wildling, I think the Ent is insane in the decks that I like, just because it fixes and then creates a basically bigger than everything in the format creature. So let's see. Mind Collapse keeps you on Izzet control plan, but I found that you don't need this alternative casting mode of Saka Mountain to deal 5 for it to be good, unless you're red aggro, where you're trying to end the game super fast and you being down a resource of a land doesn't matter. Izzet control, like you never want to cast this early for its alternate cost to go down a land. You want to keep hitting your land drops and not keeping that, or have them be too limited. That can stop you from casting multiple spells on a turn in the late game. And if you look at it like just a 4-mana deal 5, it's just not that good. So I'm already thinking we're starting to take like Undersimplify, Lembas, Repulse. These cards are nowhere near the best cards in the pack just to stay in a lane that we committed to potentially a little bit early. And if we were open to green or black, like green especially, like gives you this option to have more mana fixing. So you play like maybe a 3 to 4 color deck, but green provides the fixing. So all it's really costing you is maybe you mulligan a little bit more, and maybe you play a lot of tap lands in turns 1 and 2 of the game. So you're a little vulnerable to some of the aggro starts, but the way I look at it is some of the aggro decks, they have to perfectly curve out on you 1, 2, 3 with removal to like really take advantage in those kind of fragile turns of the game for these multicolor, more powerful decks. And if they don't do that, if they just draw badly or they don't have a perfect keep, and you just win or are more likely to win every turn of the game that progresses. Okay, but anyway, we're in the, let's see what wheels. Ooh, that's a pretty nice wheel for this deck. A little cheap shock effect that can be a lightning bolt effect, all at sorcery speed. So far we have 0 creatures though, so we can kill some stuff. Then we don't know what we're doing after that. The Vorak is okay if we were more green base, but Bolt's fine. The Ardent Elementalist wheels. All right, you can tell this draft is nearly from 3 to 4 months ago, so I forgot. But man, that's crazy. And I was in this draft, but again, I ended up drafting black-white. But anyway, so Elementalist wheeling is fantastic. Snatch that up. Ooh, green-red land. None of these other cards are great, but it would be nice for us to splash something green. Another green-red land over nothing. So we are better set up to splash green. Don't need any of these cards except Frenzied Goblin. I found to be, it's pretty nice. And is it aggro? Obviously best in mono red. Obviously better if you have more power and toughness when you're on turn 2 and turn 3. But yeah, black red land. Okay, keeps us open to splashes. Unearth, expanding ooze. Okay, these cards aren't super relevant for us. And the Crew Shock last pick. Okay, last pick green card. Yeah, so it seems like some good green cards were open. Black and white not super open. And the red cards and the blue cards were a little underpowered. So we might be in some contested spots here. All right, let's see what we open for pack 2. What do we got? What do we got? Ephemerate is sick, but we're trying to be, is it? Preordain is also pretty good in that instance here. I have found, yeah, cards like the Troll and Ephemerate to be just kind of bonkers. You already have Ardent Elementalist. No real white fixing, but I think I'd take Ephemerate here. Hoping to find a shell for it. It only really works with the Visionary and Ardent Elementalist right now, but we could get other things for it. Preordain, very good card. Conservative pick here. Trying to stick to 2 colors, not trying to mess around with all this crap. Okay, pack 2, pick 2. Shipwreck Dowser is pretty solid. It's nice to have another creature that can return spells. I like this Leyline Weaver, just as a ramper. Generates a lot of mana, can be a nice little early blocker against some of the 1-power flyers that the Ninjas deck puts out. Sneaky Snacker is also very good at just being a blocker early that you can get back if you play anything that draws 2. Repulse, Visionary, Preordain so far, Lembas, so yeah, 4 card draw spells already. Dowser, I'm likely to probably try to wheel this card because we wield the Elementalist. But if you're already thinking blue-red, we don't have enough creatures for Meeting in the Minds. Swiftspear is not our game plan of attacking early quite yet, even though we do have a nice little Prowess Shell brewing. But we didn't take the Frenzied Goblin to go with it. So we're not really, with the Breath Weapon, we're just kind of locked into control. We're not really trying to be aggressive here. But when it comes to 5 versus 2 mana cards and stuff, whether it's Sneaky Snacker or Leyline Weaver, I think the cube just rewards you for front loading your picks in the 1-2, you know, a mana value spot of the curve, and just the higher end of the curve, you'll get a few things, and you just don't want to overload on that spot of your curve, unless you can ramp to it. But not likely to happen in Izzet here. Hopefully these lands return as well. Okay, big three. Ooh, that's a lightning bolt. We fixed the art on this, so the iconicness of the card could be visualized better. I'm liking lightning bolt. Hacker's interesting for, like, is it aggro? We got the blue-red land here. Would have been nice with the Oliphant. Maybe Lauren reveals itself. But yeah, like these red aggro cards potentially could be a thing. Deep analysis. There's a lot of good cards we could wheel here. But lightning bolt that is. Pick 4. Okay, this pick I do not get. Okay, we take Fairy Seer, which is a ninja enabler, and we have like no other creatures that it cares to synergize with or to do anything with. So yeah, what are we doing? Torch fits the plan the best since it's another little cheap removal spell, and that means we can hold up counter spells more often and stuff. I mean, our Chiromancer, I love this guy too, but maybe he wheels too, and the table is undervaluing them. But yeah, to me, it's Torch, then our Chiromancer, and I'm just not looking to put Fairy Seer in the deck. Again, we just passed a Ninja. Which Ninja did we pass? This one? Yeah. Moon Circuit Hacker. That's the Ninja we passed. Okay. Pick 5. Ooh. Maybe we didn't need the Torch and we take the Discharge. Interesting that we take it over the Cannonade, which we overvalued earlier. But maybe we don't need to overvalue the second one. But I do think they go well together. Discharge I find to be really awesome when you have things like the Elementalist, because sometimes you only need to use 1 or 2 energy to kill something, and then you have extra energy, and now it's killing something from 4 or 5, which is sick. I really like Jesse and Thief too, though. You play Thief on 3, and then you just have a lot of removal to back it up, and it can keep fueling your stuff. It's hard to get it through, though. But I do like this card. Would be looking for it on the wheel. Ooh, nothing really doing for us in this pack. Zephyr Winders, like 2 mana Evasive Beater. Dies to our own breath weapon, though not necessarily the best game plan for us. Neither is Charge. Mutt would be okay, just as an early blocker and a way to get some card advantage, maybe get rid of some excess lands, but okay. Ooh, Behold the Multiverse. Very good. We finally got some really nice card advantage here. We don't really need anything else. Blue-red land would be nice, but yeah, really nice to get that. Card draw spell. Another card draw spell, except this one's very risky in the reactive deck. Way better in the proactive deck. Sometimes the removal that you hit with it doesn't line up, or you can't cast it early because your curve's a little too high. So better in low curve, better in proactive. Escape Tunnel would have been fine here for some fixing. Cloudfin Raptor, not really what our game plan is, but also would have been fine, I guess. It's a way to put on some pressure and back it up with all the removal and counter spells. But it's so draw dependent on just like what order do you draw these things in. Okay, again, just kind of not a lot here from these packs for our Izzet deck. So take the land over the Initiate. On the wheel, another land. Okay, this time it's a blue-red land, which is nice and playable. These cards that are green, black, fixing 5 colors. Dang, they're all very good. But we just take a land. Deep analysis on the wheel is perfect. Okay, little burn dude. We don't really have the ability to like fire tokens off at them. Sounds fine. We're not playing white. Doesn't matter. God's Willing, I guess, is a hate draft. We don't really want to play against it, and Reckless Charge doesn't really work with our deck. So what I'm thinking here after pack 2 is We saw like Tolarian Terror and Cryptic Serpent Pack 1, and they both didn't wheel. The Archaeomancer did not wheel here. Ephemerate didn't wheel, as it shouldn't. But like, we have some good card draw now. We have 2 recursive creatures, some good spells, some good removal. We just don't really have a clear way to like win the game. Because right now, if the opponent has a few removal spells, we just can't really deal damage to them, and we interact for a while, and then we just run out of steam. So it's tough. We need a way to win the game. So let's see what we open in pack 3. What do we got here? So we got Brimstone Volley, which can go face, right? Over Consider. Okay. Faceless Agent, Consider the only cards that we're potentially hoping to wheel here. Nothing else really speaks to us, I'm sure. Ooh, Treasure Cruise. That's a really nice pickup. Now all of our little cheaper removal skills can keep fueling things. Some lands that we can sack are pretty good to combine with it. Manowar Fireblast will be fine to wheel, but we're going on a cruise, baby. All right. Okay. Seize the Storm, a little bit of a win con here. The only problem with this is use the number of the cards in your graveyard plus the number of cards with flashback. And the problem is if we Treasure Cruise and we get rid of our graveyard, this nerfs our storm size. We get a baby storm instead of a Cat 5 Hurricane. So kind of a nombo, but we don't need Candy Trail or Pillar of Flame as much. Now, I think this was a key point in the draft where I was like, oh shoot, we actually have these green lands. We could have taken more fixing. We actually have a landscape here too. The actual pick might be Chrysalis. Chrysalis is splashable. We're going to draw a lot of cards. We're going to see, we already got a Crew Shock. We're going to see a lot of cards, and it kind of does a lot. It actually is an easier threat to get going and defend things at 4 mana rather than 5. Any options to taking Chrysalis here, even with the path that we have? And so my path of just like, being more open to a multicolor deck lets you get rewarded a little bit here with the Chrysalis. Pack 3, pick 3. But we stay to Is It. We stay true to our Is It. Oh, but we take the green, red, and land. Pack 3, pick 4. So we clearly have the ability to splash green like super easy now. None of these green cards are great, and we don't want them to wheel. But the problem is there's just no other good cards for us. But we needed to be willing to take the Chrysalis on the last pick, I think, if we wanted to play green. As it turns out, Riverwinder, not bad. It's a win con or a cycler. The problem is we don't have Unsealed and Acropolis, so we have no way to get it back in Is It, where Black Recursion would make this a really nice cycle it and then get it back for the late game threat. Nothing else is really doing. If we were in green, though, the Jewel Thief would be nice. Ooh, Prismari Land, pretty good for our Is It deck. Don't really need any of this other stuff. Ooh, Thriving Heath, look at that. That would have been sick if we had the Ephemerate. Evolution Witness is maybe one of the only, like, there's a few, pack 1, pick 1 green cards that are reasonable. I think Witness is one, maybe Nyxborn Hydra is another. They're scalable. This is recursion. There's combos with this. I don't think like Colossal Dreadmask is for Despicable. It's big and powerful, but it's just a cost 6 mana. I think Llanowar Elves is actually a reasonable first pick as well. Even Absence Pilgrim, just to fix, because if you play a turn 1 green source, it depends. Do you need double green, or do you want to have access to white? So Pilgrim can sometimes be better than Llanowar Elves sometimes. I like how Blood Fountain and Evolution Witness combo together to loop through each other here, but like we're not set up to really splash anything. So we take a land. Scholar, freaking love it. All of these spell recursion creatures are great. If we just had that Unsealed and Acropolis, then we'd be able to kind of grind a little bit and loop a little bit better. Nothing for us. This aggro card. Are we a gnawing crescendo deck? Or are we a breath weapon deck? Like, probably more breath weapon. Breath weapon depends on the matchup though, but here, just hitting on the 1 mana save their creature spell. All these green cards. If we had the Chrysalis, the Eldrazi Respawner might have been nice to have. We just needed more of a green base though to get this shell, but we would have had a lot more like mid-range threats to apply pressure and then have our removal and counter spells like be protecting our army in play. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it just seems like blue-red is kind of overdrafted here. We're not really seeing much for our deck in pack 3. The pack mate is solid, but yeah, we can't play it. But what else we got? Butler, bunch of unplayables for our blue-red deck. All right. That pack 3 was really rough. What did we get? Like a Cruise and a Scholar. But man, did we not really get too much great stuff. So we have like some decent removal, some decent card draw, a few threats, but we're not able to go over the top control. We're a little dependent on our like removal and counters lining up perfectly, and we missed a lot of power by not being able to splash. White for Ephemerate, green for a Chrysalis, Evolution Witness or whatever, and then black for maybe Unsealed and Acropolis, and not a lot else would be needed. That would be fine. A couple Thriving Lands. We passed a Prophetic Prism. Ash Barrens. Like there's a lot of ways that we could have just gotten a simple little splash, and all of our card draw would help us find it all. So I will go through and see if I can find a picture of the deck that Mal ended up playing, and then I'll go through all of my picks from my point of view of like, well, what would I have drafted in this seat, and I'll do like a side by side comparison of the decks of Mal's Is It deck, and then maybe my recommended deck that's could easily be 5 colors. Just depends on what was available in the picks, and something to think about too when I post like my recommended deck. It's essentially a way worse version than what it could have been, because if I'm basically just using the picks that I saw through this draft, but it's butterfly effect. If we would have taken some cards early, like the Unsealed and Acropolis, then other people couldn't have taken it, and so it would have potentially made our deck a little bit better. But we played, I think, a friendly and then a regular match after this, and I kind of learned in my black-white deck that it was just so grindy. It didn't need like a single removal spell. Every creature replaced itself or could die and then come back with Omen of the Dead and bounce card draw. And it was just basically every removal spell that I drew, especially against a control deck that didn't play many creatures, was just like kind of a dead card in hand for a lot of the game. And so to keep my deck flowing, I basically learned, just keep playing all the cantrip creatures and recursion, and just keep applying pressure, apply pressure. And then the removal, it's good to have options and, a variety of removal, but most of that can sit in the sideboard. You see what type of deck they are game one, and then bring in removal based on the type of matchup. So if there are tokens, then you bring in your sweepers. But like Breath Weapon game one, it can be dead against maybe, a deck with a ton of 3 toughness creatures, right? Like some sort of green Jewel Thief dot deck, right? So there's some risk to it, but it combines with the other removals. I'm not advocating for sideboarding things like Breath Weapon, but what I'm saying is removal needs a little bit more customizability, especially yeah, when you have the ability to have the options. I think red does this thing where maybe it can go face with some of the removal, and so that's what makes it main deckable and quote good. But I think the main flaw with this deck is just it didn't really like have a way to put on early pressure, and it lacked a little bit of synergy. And the blue reds kind of goal should be to be an inevitable late game winning deck and provide just so much card advantage and answer all their stuff and just grind them out. And this deck struggled to do that a little bit, at least in the matchups that I played against it twice. But yeah, so any questions, feel free to reach out. I will be posting this video maybe in my Magic Nucleus Discord. Maybe I'll start posting these on the format, streaming write-ups in the MTGA Pauper Discord for people who want to learn some more drafts and go over Mal's Pauper Cube. This cube has improved a lot in the last few months. I think every card is just getting scrutinized more, finding more synergies. A lot of underpowered stuff has gone by the wayside, so it keeps getting better and better and better, which means more, for me at least, more archetypes are available for me to draft. When I first started playing the cube months ago, there were just, to me, a lot of dead cards or cards that I wouldn't ever touch when I try to play some sort of like hyper synergistic deck or hyper control-y late game deck. And so now there's way more options. Like these aggro decks are actually very good now. Mono red, mono white, the black white mid range, just green rampy, just card draw engines are all over the place. So the multicolor decks get punished a little bit because of too many ETB tap lands. So I'm trying to refine my strats and try to force green more and try to discover new things. So like make it enjoyable. But yeah, all right, that's the Drapery episode 2 of the Draft Talker, signing off.